Over the years, there have been several Muppet guest stars that have appeared with them on several occasions, but over the past 10 years, one has risen to the top. One actor who's appeared time and time again in nearly every Muppet production, to the point where it's becoming a John Ratzenberger-level Easter egg. I am, of course, talking about the one and only Danny Trejo. Hello everybody and welcome back to Mupptown Funk. I'm your host Ty, and in today's episode of Muppet Deep Dive, we, for the first time ever, are going to be dissecting a guest star and all of their several appearances with the Muppets. That, of course, being Danny Trejo, who, as I said in the intro, has appeared in nearly every Muppet production in the last decade. So today, we're going to be breaking down all of his great cameos and also going into why he always appears with the Muppets. Danny Trejo is one of those actors that's in pretty much everything. Everybody knows him. You've all seen him in something, somewhere. I think he's probably most well known for the work he does in a lot of Robert Rodriguez movies. I know he is in the Spy Kids movies, and of course he has the starring role in the Machete series. They pronounce it that way in those movies, so I too have to say Machete instead of Machete.
Good luck, Machete. Get the bastard.
I really like Danny Trejo. I think he's really fun. I even own a pair of socks with an image of the character he played in one scene of the Book of Boba Fett on them. So, yeah, that's there on the internet forever now. Despite being an actor since the 1980s, Danny Trejo wouldn't have his first cameo with the Muppets until 2011. Well, sort of. You see, Danny Trejo was supposed to have a cameo in a scene that was filmed and even made it into some of the trailers, but was ultimately cut. Originally, as part of their ploy to try to find a celebrity guest star to host the Muppet Telethon, the Muppets would put on a fake award show, where several celebrities would show up, including Ricky Gervais, who would later go on to play a character in the sequel Muppets Most Wanted. Eventually, the Muppets would be caught for hosting a fake award show, and they would be thrown in jail, where one of the other inmates was none other than Danny Trejo.
Are you guys the Muppets?
Yes. Hey, I'm a Muppet.
While Danny Trejo wasn't able to make it into the final cut of the Muppets, he was able to make it into its sequel, Muppets Most Wanted, where he once again played a prisoner, this time as part of the Russian Gulag. He has a few lines throughout the movie. There's also a really great scene where Tina Fey's character Nadia is saying goodnight to all the prisoners, and she's just naming all the different Muppets and other fictional characters, and then she just goes, "Goodnight, Danny Trejo," and apparently that line was improvised by her.
The gag where they reveal that it's actually you.
No, that was Tina. That was her.
You didn't know that was going to happen?
She just said it.
Wow.
Amazing.
Danny Trejo also reveals to Kermit, who's trying to organize a prison talent show, just how truly dangerous he is.
I'm a triple threat, a singer, a dancer, and a murderer.
During the Gulag's annual review show, Danny Trejo does a comedy act dressing up like Fozzie Bear and even punctuating his joke with Fozzie's signature catchphrase. Unfortunately, this scene was cut from the theatrical release of the movie, but it did make its way onto the Blu-ray's unnecessarily extended cut. Danny Trejo's next cameo would come 3 years later in the live show The Muppets Take the Bowl. Despite this being a live show, there were a few pre-recorded segments spliced throughout. One of them was the Muppets pitching their very own streaming service. One of the shows on this was a parody of the drama series General Hospital, named Veterinarian's Hospital, which is just, of course, a redo of the old Muppet Show Veterinarian's Hospital sketches. We see Piggy, Janice, and Rolf operating on a patient, and then it's revealed that the whole time the patient has been none other than Danny Trejo.
These jokes keep dying, and so do I.
Danny Trejo? Danny Trejo? Danny Trejo?
This same sketch would later be reused for the next year's The Muppets Take the O2. In 2020, the next Muppet series, the Disney Plus show Muppets Now, released. And in its second episode, Fever Pitch, Danny Trejo had his largest role in a Muppet production to date. He had a cook-off against the Swedish Chef in his segment, The Swedish Chef's Okie Dokie Cooking. The two have a fierce battle, trying to make the best tacos, and also trying to see who has a better mustache.
Hello! Hey, now. Gentlemen, this is not a moustache competition.
The competition proves to be especially steep for the Swedish chef, and it should be, as Danny Trejo runs a taco company in real life, which he can be seen wearing a shirt for throughout the segment. While Danny Trejo makes a delicious-looking taco, the Swedish chef instead uses a real mole instead of mole, which Danny is using, and wraps it in the tortilla and covers it in several other toppings. His true downfall, however, comes when he forgets to put on gloves while cutting hot peppers, even making pepper gloves for himself. Eventually, he gets way too hot and needs some milk, and luckily for him, it seems Danny Trejo has put his differences with the chef aside as he provides him with some milk and gives him a big old hug as the sketch ends. Muppets Now has some pretty weak segments throughout, but the Danny Trejo one certainly isn't one of those. His appearance here is hilarious, and I love his attitude. He's just slinging insults towards the Swedish chef the entire time.
Today we will be preparing the mole taco, traditional Latin meal, very, very delicious, probably better than anything in Sweden.
A year later, the next Muppet project, The Muppets Haunted Mansion, released, and Danny Trejo kept up his cameo streak. He appeared alongside several other human celebrity cameos during the Don't Wake Them sequence, playing a ghost. Danny Trejo's character is actually one from the Haunted Mansion ride, and like so many other things throughout the special, it is a super deep cut. His character is Cousin Hewitt. Cousin Hewitt isn't an animatronic that appears within the ride, but his name is written down on a gravestone in the queue in the Florida version of the ride, with the label, "Rest in peace, Cousin Hewitt, we all know you didn't do it." Appropriately, when Danny Trejo appears as Cousin Hewitt, he's seen in a prison uniform behind bars, keeping up Danny Trejo's streak of appearing as a prisoner. Since Hewitt's name only appears on a tombstone in the ride queue, I believe Danny Trejo's appearance as him is this character's only physical appearance in any piece of Haunted Mansion media, unless he's hidden somewhere in the 2023 movie, in which case I didn't see him. A Q&A episode of Bill Beretta's podcast revealed that Danny Trejo decided he wanted to cameo as Hewitt, so I guess he just really likes doing cameos as prisoners in Muppet productions. Anyway, Danny Trejo has continued his cameo streak, making a hilarious appearance in the first episode of 2023's The Muppets Mayhem. This may just be my favorite Danny Trejo cameo to date. I think it's tied with his Muppets Most Wanted appearance, but since the show is so recent, I don't want to spoil this great joke. Definitely check it out for yourself. It's a really, really funny show. So instead, here's a picture of Danny Trejo sitting with the Electric Mayhem. This currently marks Danny Trejo's most recent appearance, but this certainly isn't the end. In the same podcast I referred to earlier, Bill Beretta, when asked, said that he tries to get Danny Trejo to be in everything he makes. So, Danny Trejo is here to stay, doing cameos in Muppet productions, and honestly, I'm all here for it. It's always super fun to see where he gets snuck in. It's like looking for John Ratzenberger in a Pixar movie, or looking for Stan Lee in a Marvel movie. It's just so fun to see all the different roles he appears in, and every time they're absolutely hilarious. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching this episode of Muppet Deep Dive. Let me know what your favorite Danny Trejo cameo has been in the comments. Like I said earlier, I think mine is a tie between Muppets Most Wanted and his great cameo in the Muppets Mayhem. Let me know what other guest stars you want to see me talk about in the series in the future, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.